The smartest person in the room just made a stupid mistake. They were leading a meeting. Everyone was listening. Then they clicked the wrong slide, forgot a number, and froze for 1 second too long. The room noticed. You noticed. And then something strange happened. You did not like them less. You may have liked them more. Not because the mistake was impressive, not because failure is attractive by itself, but because for one tiny moment, the person who seemed untouchable became human. That is the strange science of the Pratfall Effect. It is why a brilliant person can spill coffee on themselves and somehow become more charming. It is why a polished speaker can stumble over a word and make the audience relax. But here is the part most people miss. The mistake only helps some people. For others, the same mistake makes everything worse. Same spill, same awkward pause, same embarrassed laugh. Completely different result. And the difference comes down to one silent question. Was this person already competent? In 1966, social psychologist Elliot Aronson tested exactly this. He played people a recording of a man auditioning for a quiz show. In one version, the man sounded brilliant. He answered hard questions correctly. He seemed confident, capable, and impressive. In another version, the man sounded average. He missed more questions. Nothing about him stood out. Then Aronson added one small accident. Near the end of some recordings, the man knocked over coffee and admitted, awkwardly, that he had spilled it on his suit. That was the whole mistake. No disaster, no giant failure, just one embarrassing moment. Then people were asked how much they liked him.
The brilliant man became more likable after the mistake. The average man became less likable after the same mistake. That is the Pratfall Effect. A small flaw can make a highly competent person more appealing, but only if the competence is already visible. The mistake does not create respect, it softens respect. And that difference is everything. Think about someone who seems perfect. They never stumble. They always know what to say. They dress right, speak right, arrive prepared, stay calm. At first, that feels impressive. Then it can start to feel cold. You admire them, but you do not relax around them. You respect them, but you may not feel close to them. Because perfection creates distance. Your brain quietly compares. They are up there, I am down here. A small mistake changes that. The statue becomes a person. The polished image cracks just enough for something real to come through. Suddenly your brain says, oh, they are like me. That is why an awkward moment can feel warm. It lowers the distance. It gives people permission to connect. But this is where the rule gets dangerous. People hear this and think vulnerability is a trick. They think they should act clumsy on purpose. They think if they reveal any flaw, people will automatically like them. That is not how it works. The Pratfall Effect has a gate. Competence has to go first. If people already trust you, a small mistake makes you human. If people do not trust you yet, the same mistake becomes evidence. A respected leader forgets one detail, and people think they are tired. A new employee forgets the same detail, and people wonder if they are careless. A skilled speaker loses their place and laughs, and the audience relaxes. A beginner loses their place, and the audience gets nervous. The action did not change. The story around the person changed. That is the uncomfortable part. People do not judge mistakes in isolation. They judge mistakes through the reputation you already have. If the story is, this person is capable, then the mistake becomes a lovable exception. If the story is, this person is unreliable, then the mistake becomes confirmation. Your baseline decides the cost of the mistake. This is why perfect people can feel distant. But incompetence does not become charming just by being flawed. The sweet spot is competence with a crack in it. Good enough to respect, real enough to trust. You can see this all over the internet. Creators do not become loved because they look flawless. They become loved when skill is already there, and one real human moment breaks through. But audiences can feel fake imperfection. A rehearsed confession is still a performance. Fake perfection creates distance. Fake vulnerability does the same thing. The Pratfall Effect only works when the mistake is real, small, and safe. Real, because people do not like being manipulated. Small, because it should not threaten your core ability. Safe, because it should not hurt other people or reveal a serious character problem. Spilling coffee is human. Forgetting a harmless detail is human. Laughing after a small stumble is human. But cruelty is not charming. Constant unreliability is not charming. A pattern of hurting people is not charming. There is a line between imperfection and dysfunction. The Pratfall Effect lives on the first side of that line. This matters at work more than people admit.
Every office has a perfect person. Always prepared, always calm, always correct. People may respect them, but not approach them. Now think about the capable person who can say, "Correction, I got that wrong," and keep going. They become easier to trust because they make competence feel livable. So how do you use this without turning it into a cheap social trick? First, build the base. Do the work. Keep your promises. Develop real skill. Let people see that you can be trusted. The Pratfall Effect is not a shortcut around competence. It is what happens after competence becomes too smooth. Second, when a small mistake happens, do not overreact. Do not turn a 5-second mistake into a 5-minute apology. Correct it, name it lightly, move on. If you say the wrong number in a meeting, you do not need to explain your whole week. Just say, "Correction, the number is this," then continue. That calm response tells people the mistake is not dangerous. Third, use self-deprecation carefully. A little can create connection. Too much can damage trust. There is a difference between saying, "I make good slides, but sometimes forget what slide I am on," and saying, "I am terrible at presentations." One makes you human. The other teaches people to doubt you. The best self-deprecation reveals a crack without tearing down the house. And finally, give other people the same room. When someone else stumbles, you can make the mistake heavier, or you can make it survivable. A room where small mistakes are survivable is a room where people can think. That may be the real lesson. The Pratfall Effect is not telling you to mess up on purpose.
It is telling you that perfect is not the same as trustworthy. People do not only want excellence, they want excellence with a pulse. So the next time you make a small mistake in front of other people, notice the first wave of panic, the heat in your face, the need to explain, the fear that everyone has changed their opinion of you. Then remember this: If you have built trust, the mistake may not destroy the room. It may open it. Because nobody connects with a statue. Nobody relaxes beside a performance that never slips. The people we remember are not the ones who proved they were perfect. They are the ones who were good enough to admire and real enough to believe. Your small imperfections are not always what ruins your image. Sometimes they are where your real image begins.